Rishi Sunak's got some nerve, isn't he? Urging firms to think carefully about their investments in Russia and there being no case for new investments there when his own family are literally doing this. From Rishi Rich to Ruskie Rishi, we've learned this week that he's got connections to Russian business interests via his own wife. As his statement this week basically told us all to suck it up, we're not helping you with the cost of living crisis, though he thought he'd try and con us into thinking otherwise by filling up a small car that wasn't his, and then encountering the alien concept of how contactless payment works in a vain attempt to appear normal, which for someone worth around £200 million was never going to end well. That's enough to immunise anyone from the realities of Tory Britain. Of course, that's his own money. The wealth of his wife, Akshata Murthy, dwarfs that. She's richer than the Queen. She has shares alone in her father's company, Infosys, of some £490 million. And it's her dad, Narayana Murthy, a multi-billionaire, and Sunak's links to him that we ought to be more aware of. Sunak went to great pains to blame the consequences of the cost of living crisis on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Not that that excuses his limp spring statement, which frankly helps very few people very little indeed. It's not even true. The war is an aggravating factor, sure, but not a direct cause. And we know this because we've all been struggling longer than this invasion has been going on. But having blamed Russia publicly, if the Chancellor happens to be benefiting from trade with Russia via his family connections to Infosys, it's not a good look. It's the sort of thing that ends careers. Infosys is operating in Moscow. It isn't subject to any UK sanctions because it is Indian-owned, yet has been reported to be working with Russia's third largest bank, Alfa Bank, despite them very much being sanctioned. Why are companies still dealing with Russia not being sanctioned too? Infosys has 4 offices in the UK, so surely we can do something. And anyone prepared to deal with Putin, thereby undermining sanctions put in place against his regime, should be stopped from doing so. So those sanctions are as effective as they can be. Infosys is a tech giant. It's not like it's an essential service. In fact, it's ideally placed to push back in this day and age of cyber warfare, surely. Narayana Murthy is India's 44th richest man, according to Forbes. He's a big supporter of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, someone who has refused to impose sanctions on Putin and is in fact buying shed loads of Russian oil, undermining Western sanctions. And Murthy is also rather close to Putin himself, it would seem, if pictures like this are anything to go by. And they do indeed speak 1,000 words. Many of these images are from a visit to Infosys in India that Putin made all the way back in 2004, and who also signed the Infosys guest book with the comment, "I congratulate you on your achievements and wish you all future success." Just how successful are they in Moscow? I wonder. Sunak's excuses that he's not involved are pathetic. His wife has hundreds of millions of pounds worth of shares in a company allegedly still doing business with a sanctioned Russian bank, a company with an office in Moscow still actively trading there, as well as offices in the UK, very much actively trading too. How he can say with a straight face that his family won't benefit from dividends paid out to his wife as a massive shareholder from profits potentially made in Russia, they wouldn't be trading there if it wasn't good for business, would they? Is treating us with contempt at a time when we're all worse off, going to get even more worse off, are getting worse off because Sunak won't rise to the needs of the country based on the extraordinary set of circumstances we find ourselves in with this cost of living crisis, and has placed his own family affairs above those of every other company being lent on to stop conducting business with Russia. It is taking us for fools if he thinks he can get away with sanctioning only Russia-based companies when so many more are still doing business there without any ramifications. And when one such company is that of his in-laws, it can only be seen as an abuse of the system, clearly putting his own interests first ahead of a nation in need.